Healing crystals, skincare routines, knitting a sweater, fitting in jeans. With Katie and Sarah, no need to worry, you're on a lady journey.
I have like a Steve Jobs vibe.
Oh,
today,
with the
and I love
turtleneck.
it. This is my new look.
It's also Elizabeth Holmes,
Yes.
our hero.
That was my Halloween costume. I was Elizabeth Holmes, but with cum. And I lost a lot of followers because I posted that on my Instagram because it was very crude. And I would never
Lamos.
do that. But I bought this turtleneck and I said, you know, how can I incorporate this into my look?
Of course. And then all you have to do for the costume is go down a few levels.
Hi, I'm Elizabeth Holmes.
I have a blood box that you just put your blood in there and we spin it around and then we figure it out what disease you have.
I'm 21, but I look like a 40-year-old woman. Oh my God, age shaming.
Age shaming. Well,
welcome to Lady Journey, everybody.
Welcome to Lady Journey. She got in trouble, but now I think it's getting appealed.
She was convicted. Oh, is it? Of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
Well, she's on a journey. Her own little lady journey.
I'd love to have her as a guest.
I would love that as our lady journey of when ladies get convicted of fraud.
Oh, it's the best. It's kind of like taking the power back, you know? It's like Bernie Madoff, he had it easy, okay?
Oh, flaccid Mike.
Uh-oh. And we're back.
These things are so tall. Yes, he did have it easy.
He had it easy. People were basically throwing money at him, okay? Elizabeth Holmes had to change the octave of her voice.
Yes, I love that it's scientifically proven that men only respond to low voices.
Is it really?
I think so. I think there's something about our shrill voices that they can't handle.
Hello? Well, I actually noticed, I took a voice class when I was in college, Kristen Linklater voice technique, which if you've ever had any association with the theater, you probably have heard of her. And it's all about how you communicate unconsciously with your voice and different tension you have in your voice and releasing it. And I noticed that like when I'm trying to be nice and seem non-threatening, I talk in a kind of a higher pitched voice. Hi.
Well, yes, when I would wait tables, it would be like, hi, is everyone, like a little kind of baby voice.
Hello.
Because you don't want to be too intimidating.
Yeah, you don't.
You don't want to be like, hi. Hi, what can I get you guys?
Yeah, but meanwhile, when I'm in a serious, usually when someone's trying to talk to me and I don't want to speak to them in public, I'm like, hi, how are you? And I drop it down. So it's like I actually, and people will be like, oh, like, is that your normal voice? I'm like, it's all my normal voice. I have like
we're all playing parts.
We're all playing parts.
Yeah. No, you have to though.
Yeah.
You do. I try to work on I speak in an uptick.
Oh, yes.
And that says no confidence, but I'm like, that's who I am.
Yeah, I like it. You're questioning everything you're saying.
Yeah, is that right?
It's like also at a certain point, you just have to accept yourself and stop trying to model yourself into like the Napoleon Hill think and grow rich personality type.
Well, I did learn this on TikTok. Did you know that teenage girls or young women are the ones that kind of change the way that society starts talking? They change the trend.
Oh, interesting.
Yes. I don't know what that's about, but people that study speech, they say that where teenage girls or young girls are in the forefront of changing the dialect.
How interesting.
Yes. Well, because you notice that we always get shit on for having vocal fry whenever you do stand up. They're like, why does she talk that way? And you're like, I know a lot of guy comics that do vocal fry that don't get called out for it.
Oh, yeah. Well, also, somebody commented this a few years back, and it was all about something. I was in a conversation with somebody about like women. A lot of times we end up sounding really shrill on a microphone on stage, and this person, we're like, hi, how you doing tonight, everybody? And it's like we're getting like, in that like porn voice, but it's like that's not how I usually sound, and why do I sound like that? And people hate the sound of women's voice or whatever. And this person, it was a stage person, like a stage manager woman or something that I was talking to, and she said, yeah, I think it's because the mics are actually calibrated for a lower frequency. They're calibrated for dudes' voices on stage, and it's like, oh, no wonder I sound awful.
Yeah.
I sound like I'm like making like a dog come, like running towards me as I'm doing my act out.
That's where it show. I mean, I hate playing this card, but it is true. Most things are made for men, and there's studies about it, like the ergonomics of technology. Like apparently with phones, it's calibrated for men's hands.
Oh yeah, yeah.
More than female hands, so we make more mistakes or something. I know it's a bunch of stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like things are made more towards men.
Or it's like
ladies.
the that was the whole thing with the what was that sleeping pill that was messing people up?
Ambien?
Ambien.
The one that makes you racist, like Roseanne?
Yeah. It causes racism. And I'm immediately on her side.
It might cause racism.
May cause racism. Well, the thing with Ambien was they never tested it on women because they didn't know how it would affect somebody who was pregnant. And it's like, you know how sometimes you don't know if you're pregnant?
Yes.
So they just never tested it on women. And meanwhile, the dosage is way too strong for women. And like guys are taking it, getting a good night's rest. And then meanwhile, a woman's taking it and then eating her entire fridge. Waking up like, what happened? Or she's like driving to work and just like going off the road.
She's like, I have no idea why I'm gaining weight.
I ordered a cake last night from Uber Eats.
Oh, Lady Journey.
Lady Journey. Welcome to Lady Journey, everybody. And thank you so much. So many people have written in awesome stories, and they've written awesome reviews for us. And I just want to take a moment and say thank you so much. When I read the reviews, I'm literally like crying.
Yes.
Because I'm like, wow, people don't hate me.
We're touching hearts.
We're touching hearts. So thank you. God bless you. If you've written a review, you're my best friend.
Even the one that said our volume is too low.
Well, we're gonna work on that. I love that person because they did a 5-star, but then they also put a note in there, and it's like, what a great thing to do.
Yes.
He didn't put 4 stars.
It wasn't an email that he could have sent us.
And I'm assuming it's a guy, even
Me
though
too.
I have no idea. But
it read like a guy.
It read like a guy. It read like, let me speak to the manager, which we are.
Yes.
And you have.
We are the manager.
And we are going to take it seriously.
Yeah.
Well, I don't do the editing stuff.
Well, no, it has been noted, and
thank you.
Yeah. So I'm going by the standards that I read online, but I will up it. Maybe those standards are by men's standards. So maybe with our soft lady voices, I need to go to, instead of a -6, push it to a -4.
Yeah. And the song was done by a man.
It was.
So.
I have noticed that our Lady Journey song is done by a man,
which I love because men can go on this lady journey.
Yeah, a lot of people don't realize men can do lady journeys.
Men do lady journeys.
They do.
And Tommy McNamara, is the name of our singer-songwriter who composed that incredible song for us.
Big fan. If you ever get to see he has a Christmas special.
Oh, he does.
That it's online, I believe. It's real. He's a very talented comedic songwriter.
Yes, and he's a very talented stand-up comedian, and he also is a very talented man who throws a basketball. He can throw a basketball from backwards into the hoop. Have you ever seen him do that?
I think I've seen him, but I didn't know that was his skill. It's because I'm always not on volume when I'm looking at Instagram most of the time.
He's got this is how little I know about sports. I'm like, he basketballs like a champion. But yes, it's actually mind-blowing what he does. He's standing like, however far away from the basketball hoop, and he throws the ball backwards into it without looking.
Yeah. That's impressive.
Unbelievable.
That's an impressive skill.
Check him out.
That you wish. How do you fit that into a conversation nonchalantly?
You just have to do it, I think.
Yeah.
Just
hey guys,
throw
watch
something
this
into the garbage behind you. Well, I've been on a bit of a lady journey.
Ooh. Let me hear.
I did a weekend in Atlantic City this weekend. So I was there by myself at the well, I guess I won't say what hotel I was at. But
the Borgata?
Perhaps.
Is that? That's the only hotel that I'm actually familiar with, and I'm probably knowing it from the comedic zeitgeist.
Well, I've been down other times to the Tropicana.
Okay.
And
I've never been to Atlantic City. The only thing that I know about it is I remember watching on HBO a show called Pimps Up, Hose Down.
Pimps Up, Hose Down. I've never heard of it. But it sounds like something I'd like to look up.
Something I watched when I was in middle school, unattended. Because my parents are new to the States and had no idea about pornography on cable.
Wow. It was HBO After Dark.
Yeah, it was an HBO After Dark.
Mm-hmm.
Best programming, and I wish they would bring it back. But yeah, it was a lot of that, and I've always known it as to be a nefarious place.
It's absolutely nefarious. And before I love a good casino, I have to say.
It's interesting.
It is like being on another planet.
I love it because it's like people with bad taste going out in their best outfits.
Oh, absolutely. Before I did stand-up, I thought that a casino, this kind of resort casino, was like the height of luxury.
You think of like James Bond and
Absolutely.
Monaco, and you're like, that's how I'm going to be at the casino.
Yes, and then you go and you're like, this is something completely different. This is a lot of like people in casual attire who seem to have a gambling problem. They're like
saddest lives of like people just sitting at a slot machine, smoking.
Just cranking away. Yeah, smoking. It's like you're smoking inside during a pandemic.
Yeah, the slot machines too, you're like, it'd be like Anchorman, the slot machine. Like that movie has a slot machine.
Yeah.
It's mind-boggling.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and everyone's got a medical ailment.
There's a lot of I've worked casinos before. One of the casinos that I've done, it's been a while since I've done this casino. They offer free rascal scooters to anyone at the casino. And so you're going and walking around and you just see you're like, there's another one. And it's all the same red rascal scooter that people just zip around. And I didn't realize. I just thought, I was like, everyone in this town has the same scooter. Like, what are the odds?
Yeah.
But they're gratis.
They're free. You should really take advantage.
Going
from gig to gig.
It's just going to my one show from my buffet to the show. But yeah, so I was in AC this weekend, and because we're in like the height of the Omicron, I was asked by my booking agency to keep my mask on at all times.
Okay.
So I was just barely had any social interaction with anybody. I was allowed to go to the employee cafeteria, which was pretty good. Pretty good, I have to say.
I've been to one casino employee cafeteria, and it's sad.
I have to say, this one I was like, this is all right. Like, I had battered shrimp, okay? I'm like, battered shrimp? Am I a queen?
Yes.
Okay, like, when do you get that in your life?
It's luxury.
And then I had ham one day. I think I had like a chicken piccata that was very delicious. And what did I have? Oh, I had fried chicken one day. I was in and out of that. And they had these gorgeous lemon bars that were so... I'm very easily impressed with food.
I love a spread. So when you have like an array, an assortment of foods, I'm into that.
They had a salad bar. Yeah. When there's choices, I'm like, cucumber, olives. I love it. So I had a great time going to and from the cafeteria. I spoke to no one I was there for I got there Friday. I left Monday.
Okay.
So when you're at a casino and it's like frigid right now, you feel freezing. And I'm just going from my room to the cafeteria, back to my room, to the show, to the cafeteria, back.
It's lonely.
It gets lonely. And I feel in such a surreal setting because it's almost like, have you ever seen this movie, Land of the Dead? I'll put a link to the movie in the comments. This is like one of the George A. Romero classic zombie movies, but like as they started getting bad.
Okay.
This one had I forget the guy's name. It also had John Leguizamo in it. John Leguizamo was like the hero. But it's like in a post-apocalyptic setting where the main setting is this giant skyscraper that's like the safe zone from the zombies. And it's like the bottom floors of the skyscraper are like debauchery, gambling, prostitution, and people just like trying to get by on this like post-apocalyptic society.
Okay.
And then like, people live on the floors or whatever. And that is 100% what it feels like being in. Yeah. Like I'm trapped in this casino. I never get to leave. I'm performing as like a sideshow circus clown, basically.
It's your life. It's like a life sentence, it feels like.
And it feels apocalyptic because it's like I didn't go outside for 3 days.
I know. Well, yeah, because we're dealing with extreme temperatures too, and then like, what do you can't get like, what's there to do on the beach when it's like 20 degrees outside?
Yeah, what am I gonna get? I'm gonna walk around the casino. And Atlantic City is really interesting too because it's like there's these luxury casinos and then the surrounding area. It's like not a great neighborhood.
I heard it's like
Yeah.
If you take the train there, it's almost like you have to run as fast as you can to get to the safe spot of the casino.
I took the bus, and I can always tell how an area is doing by the bus station. And, you know, I went to the bathroom and, like, you know, people are living in there, and that's not a good sign. You know, and somebody has a full shopping cart in the bathroom, you're like, okay, there's some poverty going on. And not to make light of it, but, yeah, their bus station, I would not recommend it.
Yeah, do not do the bus station at Atlantic City.
Just drive. Just
our
drive.
top 10 bus stations.
It's in my bottom 100 bus stations. It's actually one of the most brutal bus stations I've ever been to, where I was like, wow, this is
And most bus stations are pretty brutal.
Yes. And so I was there. I spoke to no one the entire time I was there. I had one situation in the green room. Somebody came in, a comedian who was not on the show, but just passing through. He was kind of like, I don't know if it was like he
How
was
do you
like
just
some of
pass through Atlantic City.
I don't know if he was like some of the local color or I won't say his name, but it was a sign of a zodiac. That was what his stage name was. He came in. He did not talk to me. He didn't address me. He addressed only the men in the room. Then he did a magic trick, which I was confused by. I didn't respond. I didn't give it the response that it demanded, and he got mad and left. And
what were you supposed to do? Just like cream in your pants?
I was confused what was happening.
You didn't suck his dick?
That was amazing. I'm like, wait, what actually was it? Because it was there was a lot of nervous energy. I had a feeling of like maybe some drug use, maybe a past of methamphetamine experimentation. So that was the only person I talked to. And then the most social interaction I had other than that, which it felt weird because like you're in the hotel and like the hotel room is sexual. Okay. Mm-hmm. Like there's like a nude woman, like a portrait of a nude woman on the wall. And like in the bathroom, there's a portrait of like a woman like this. Tasting something, and it's like I'm like on my 5th hotel coffee, like writing a sketch in the corner, just like surrounded by like sexy stuff.
I know, and you're like, I'm by myself and I'm working. I do not need horny art around me right now.
No, thank you.
Can you at least have a room for like staff or somebody that's here to just kind of like work?
Put me in the staff room. And that would be great too, because it's like I'm so lonely and then I hear the people in the room next to me having sex. That was the most social interaction I had. Somebody did a magic trick and then I heard a couple having sex.
Yes.
And you know, it sounded fine but short. I will say that. Fine but short. And then it was the strangest thing because I think I'm like trying to sleep. I hear them having sex, and I almost am like scandalized by it at first. I'm like, how dare you?
Yeah.
But then I'm like, okay, square, like loosen up. We're in Atlantic City. Sex. We're in AC. Okay, and this was the Sunday. City. This was the Sunday night crowd, so I was like, get it in, okay? I was supporting them, and then the guy. I was like kind of following the conversation. They had sex. They had a short sexual encounter. Then the girl went down for a snack, but was FaceTiming the guy upstairs. She was hammered, reeling all over the casino. She couldn't find the Starbucks. The guy's like coaching her. He's like, just get a croissant. I'm like, is she going to be okay? Now I'm worried. I'm worried about this girl. Then she gets back up. Then they got in a fight about gun control and then just sleep.
That's hilarious. Obviously, they just met.
I know. I was like, I feel like there's been some red flags here. I'm 100% on her side. This guy, I could care less.
I've never fought about gun control with Joe.
I don't think Mike and I have ever fought about it.
Well, I generally feel like you end up being on the same page.
Who's not on the same page? Yeah. I mean, this felt like I couldn't tell if they were talking specifically about the Alec Baldwin, the movie shooting. I was like, in my mind, I'm like coming up with a story. I'm like, do they have a gun in there?
Yeah.
You know?
How did this come up?
How did it come up?
Unless maybe you're not into it that you're like, let me just throw out all the controversial topics and see if I can hit a button and then I can get out.
So I can Uber immediately.
Where you're like, this isn't working. I don't know
Yeah.
where you stand. I cannot believe that's where you stand on abortion. I'm out.
Yeah, bye.
Yeah. It is always weird when you do those kinds of shows because you don't talk to anybody and then the only people you talk to is the crowd of
Yes.
that night. And you're like, this is absolutely bonkers. And I think Ryan Hamilton has, I always think
I know
about
exactly.
it. He always starts
He's
off that way.
Hysterical.
He's like, you guys are the first people I've talked to today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I adore Ryan Hamilton. I think his joke writing is stunning.
Yeah.
He's so, and actually, he is a fellow sufferer of blepharitis. So he and I have.
This is our ongoing thread of the podcast.
I will stop talking about it when I stop having it.
Yeah, it'll be, we've reached the end of the show
When my blepharitis is cured.
when it's cured, you're like, I have moved on.
Searching for a cure. But yeah, he has, I love his joke where he has, somebody calls him and he's like, hello.
Yeah.
Like, no, I've been up for hours, but I've been lying in bed. What? But yeah, it's like we don't talk to anybody all day, and then you just go on stage, and you're like,
It's psychotic.
"Hi."
Yeah, and here are my problems
Yeah,
that I'm
yeah.
going to joke about. And I realize when I've been alone for long hours of like that, the first person I'm talking to, I realize I've just dominated the conversation.
Yes. You're
Yeah.
like, "Hi."
Yeah.
Is this how normal people act? That's how I was when I was coming back from the pandemic. I was
Yeah.
very theatrical with my hellos, and I had to
Yes.
learn to pull it back.
We were like, this is too much. I'm just talking about like giving them facts about something that they care not to know about.
I've been knitting.
Did
You're
you
like,
know?
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. They're like, I don't need to know this.
Oh.
But you know what? Because when the whole time you're telling me this, it feels like I'm going to parlay this into
Yes.
my journey.
Yes, 100%.
I'm going to make this about me.
Classic Talamash switcheroo.
Is that I'm like, you know what? This will be great. I'll do the Atlantic City gig. I will be in my hotel room. There's no distractions. And I will write the American novel, American novel.
Yes, I
go into fantasy world.
Yes, fantasy world. I was there. I had a plan to write a pilot, which I never even started because really? A pilot. I'm going to do 6 months of work
On
in
2
48
days.
hours.
Yeah. You'd have to have like a major maybe coke problem to pull that kind of stuff off. And
Yeah.
even then, like, can that be good? But I've been thinking about this a lot. I live in fantasy world. So like,
Yes.
if we go on a trip, like say like camping, I'm like, I think it's a product of growing up on fashion mags and those worlds of like, I'm going to wear this really cool kind of like flannel grunge outfit
Yes.
with platform boots. And then you're like, what kind of crazy, if a girl came on a camping trip and like an outfit like that, everyone would be like, who is this crazy person?
Yeah. You're like, I've arrived.
Yeah.
You're like trying to start a fire in like the most expensive outfit you own.
It's like, it's not even warm. Or like, I will bring a basket with cheeses and like, like we'll have a nice picnic on the camping. And then when it comes down to that moment, you're like, that's $100 to bring all these like fancy gourmet foods.
Yeah.
It's heavy. I have to bring cutlery.
And you need a fridge.
Yeah.
You're like, meanwhile, it's rotted.
Yeah.
Well, this reminds me of when I asked you, I like got it into my mind. I got a bug in my ass. That's not how you use that expression, but I like got it into my mind that I wanted to buy those white Doc Martens.
Oh yes,
and
I was into that.
Yeah, I was like, oh my God, what if I just go out and buy it? And you get this feeling of like, this is gonna solve everything.
Yes.
And I ran it by you, and you said you brought me back to reality because you were like, I always think that, but then I get it, and I'm like, this looks like clown shoes. And I was like, oh my God, that's what I needed to hear right now, because they do.
Yeah, because I don't know why it looks great on other people.
Yes,
But it only like hot girls or something. Not that I'm saying that you're not. That's what
which,
that's
which
what I'm getting
actually, that's my brand, is like kind of almost there. Seven
If
and a half.
extra hard, I can maybe get there.
But who has the energy?
I know. And then but yeah, and then I get those shoes, and then all I can see in my peripheral is big white shoes sticking out. Like they end up like clown shoes. I don't.
Yeah, you
It's
just feel like
just-
bozo.
Here I come. And here's another fantasy that I live in of like any town I visit, no matter how shitty it is, I'm like, I could live here.
Oh yeah, yeah.
This is what I saw a TikTok today of a girl being like, I just got out of the city and now I live in the Hudson Valley. And I'm like, I want to do that.
Yeah.
And then
meanwhile, it's like Poughkeepsie. You're like, oh, this is basically the Rust Belt.
Yeah, and the apartments there are still expensive.
Oh yeah.
And then there's no one to hang out with. So then
Yeah.
I'm all alone. Like I also have fantasies of like, maybe I'll just settle in a small West Texas town and just write books.
Oh, town
When
fantasies.
do I write?
Yeah,
no,
right.
yeah.
Town fantasies are so they're like unique to New York people because we're surrounded by like dysfunction constantly.
Yeah, I like the idea of living in peace and quiet, that if there is an apocalypse, I have no idea that it's happening.
Oh, yes. I have those too. Like when I go on the road, I'll be like, oh, I'm going to actually do like a little tourist activity. I'm going to go here. I'm going to go there. Meanwhile, I get there and it's like Binghamton. And I'm like, half of this town is in complete disrepair and the other half is like suburbs that are isolated.
Yeah, you're like, this place is in a financial crisis. And then also all these towns are kind of weirdly the same. They have the same store that sells the same stuff.
Yes, yeah. It's like the local store, the coffee shop. It's all.
Yeah. There's a store here in Astoria called Lockwood, and I think they're all over, and they have cute gift ideas that are overpriced, like a puzzle for $35.
Yeah, is
and
that
you're
on
like,
Ditmars?
Yeah.
I know. There's one down here. Yeah.
It's and they have one in Brooklyn, and they sell Astoria merch here, but I swear I went to the Lockwood of Berlin. But yeah, you're like, I'm actually just seeing the same thing over and over again everywhere I go.
But yet I still go in. Like, watch me in an airport. I'm like, oh my God, I've never seen a novelty shop before. Is this a tea towel with a saying? Oh my God, I have to reel myself in. I'm like, I almost bought a tray for like $24, a tiny tray.
Yes.
No self-control.
You're like, this will make me happy.
Yeah.
You're like, no, get out of there. Like,
get out.
Also, the idea of like, I'm in Vermont. I'm like, I should start wearing wide-brimmed hats and flannels and living that life. And then you're like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just like, sometimes it just gets so out of hand that I'm starting to accept that that's not going to bring me joy. Although whenever I'm in a beach town, I want everyone involved who's with me to start wearing linen. You know, when you those stores,
yes,
that you're like, what ladies are wearing this? And I want to be one of those ladies.
Yes,
I want to have a caftan party in Palm Springs.
Oh, I love it. I will be there. I will 100%. But you know what? Sometimes I get into this fantasy mode, like and it's hard when you're packing on a trip for somewhere that you've never been before. Because I'm an experienced traveler. I'm actually pretty good at packing now. Basically because I bring like 2 outfits and I just shove it in the backpack and then I decide I just don't care. But
yeah.
But like in my younger years, I would pack for a trip, but I'd be living in this fantasy of like, oh, I'll wear this silk scarf around my dress at night. And then you get there and you're like, I made up an outfit that looks insane. Like no one would wear this. I had this fantasy that I'm gonna like that came from like something I saw them like do on Princess Diaries or something, like a favorite movie from like the early 2000s, and you're like, this is not a viable outfit and this is all I have packed.
Like the most impractical thing. You're like, I didn't pack any underwear because I had to bring my wide brimmed hat with
Yeah.
me. And then just picture myself at the end of the pier, just like looking out with a scarf kind of like blowing behind me.
A giant scarf, yeah.
And then in actuality, it's like, all I'm thinking is like, I'm so alone right now.
I asked my friend to not come so I'd have room for my hat. Yeah, traveling alone is like such a thing where in your mind you're like,
I'm an assassin. I'm hired to be a hitman.
yes.
And I have to wear these outfits.
Or you're like I'm going to write a novel and this is going to be like a poetic, like I'm going to eat alone. And then you get there and you're like, this is sad. I just watched the sunset by myself and I just felt like I was staring into a ball of fire for 30 minutes.
It's also, I'm cold.
I'm so cold because I didn't bring any sweaters.
Because like I love blogs, like travel blogs, fashion blogs. And those also create the fantasy of the travel for me. And I'm always like, oh, I want to go to Norway and be on a fjord. And you're like, it looks so amazing to be in that home. And you're like, it's a cool house. You get there and you're like 30 minutes. You're like, I'm bored.
Yeah.
And there's no heat in here.
Yeah. And I just spent $2,000.
I'm lonely. Like, of course I have Joe, but you're like, we need interaction. Like, we need to have some kind of social part about this. That's why I like traveling when I have like, it's a comedy show is involved.
When you have an anchor. But, you know, I'm noticing so much, especially on TikTok right now. Like, it used to be this thing on Instagram where, you know, they always say, like, Instagram causes this, like, certain blend of mental illness because it's just people, like, showing their best life. Like, I went on vacation and yes, my boyfriend fought the entire time with me and he refused to like put on sunscreen and it was a nightmare, but I got these amazing photos and I'm just posting these amazing photos. And it's the same thing with TikTok now where it's like so many people are like doing these travel TikToks. It's like the evolution of the travel blog where it's just like this gorgeous music video of like, you know, this Italian villa and everything you did that was so fun. And it's like, oh yeah, they don't leave in anything about like the nightmare of like being on the flight for forever. You know, it's like half of these trips are
Traveler
always like
diarrhea.
Yeah, it's like Fire Festival. Half of the trip is Fire Fest where you're like, I don't know where my boyfriend is and my phone's not working and I'm scared.
Also, they make it out like Greek villas are like pristine and no one's there and just like a few people, but then I've seen actual videos where it's 100,000 people looking at the sunset.
Yeah
And you have to stand behind slow pokes as you can try to like go, where you're like, I don't need this many people here, and they leave that out of the fantasy.
Totally. And I was thinking about that when I was in Atlantic City because, you know, the hotel I was at, it's actually a gorgeous space. It looks gorgeous, but it doesn't smell gorgeous. It smells like smoke.
They leave that out of the fantasy.
There's no smell. There's no smell. But I was thinking, I was like, I could totally do a TikTok here of like just another night in AC, like gorgeous view, gorgeous
winning
food,
money, maybe,
doing a Britney Spears slot machine, you know, but meanwhile, you know, like doing this showroom is gorgeous, you know. Meanwhile, it's like that was not my experience actually.
Yes, where you may have gotten accosted by like kind of like a homeless person that's made you feel guilty.
Yeah, I like went in the bathroom and someone was like, "Excuse me." I'm like, "I'm sorry, I'm just trying to use the stall." The bus station's terrifying.
Yeah, somebody's giving you a backhanded compliment that's giving you a complex about yourself. No, all of it is, it's never what that fantasy is that they portrayed. In actuality, I do appreciate it's cold, it's cranky, the traveler's diarrhea, because later on those are the funnier stories than being like, remember when I was out on the pier in my amazing outfit?
Remember when we went to Ibiza and it was the best thing that ever happened to us?
You're like, remember that horrible waitress?
Yeah. I think she spit in my sandwich.
You're like, those are the best stories later.
Yes.
But yeah, they're only like, it's horrible at the moment, but like, it is like we really at least for me, and I know for you, we live in fantasy worlds, and I really can get like so wrapped up in it, and it makes me miserable when the trip doesn't live up to it.
Yeah, and I think that's how it is for like a lot of people. And I think a lot of it's like these, you know, like the TikToks, the travel blogs or whatever, they're like pushing this like fantasy of like once you go to Sandals, Jamaica, not only are you going to have this incredible vacation, but you're actually going to be this like ultimate version of yourself where you're hot, you're rich,
you're eating the best meals. Yes. You're hanging out with like hot people all the time.
Everyone's hot. Like meanwhile, you're at like a couple's resort and everyone's elderly.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, I thought we were at a swingers place and we were going to be like having an orgy. And it's like, I'm the youngest person here.
Also, like that was another, when we did the, the Impractical Jokers tour, we went on the Bahamas, and you know, like you can go with the idea of like amazing beaches, but if you don't have money, you're on the poor people beaches where every 30 seconds somebody's there trying to sell you necklaces, drinks, weed, all kinds of, and you cannot get like 1 moment of rest. And the only place that you can have that is if you go to the more private resorts.
Of course. Yeah. And these resorts, it's so expensive. Everything is so expensive.
Yeah. Or like the one where they're like, you can swim with the pigs. And you don't realize you're going to be standing in line for an hour and you only get like 5 minutes. The pigs, there's no bonding moment with nature. You just realize it's one big like money grab, and you're like, this
complicit in abuse.
You're like, this is the worst. I cannot believe like I fell for this horrific fantasy.
Yeah. Well, I'm doing a lot of stuff on the blog now. I'm doing I did my parents' guide to New York City. I put a full tour up there. So I think like maybe we'll do some stuff on there that's like the real guide.
Yeah,
the real travel guide.
We'll share, you know, maybe the horrific waiter that berated us, but at least if you go there, you can be like, oh, cool. Like, I read about this.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Like, I remember when Mike and I were in Aruba, which is like our little vacation spot that we go now, and we're going there in a few weeks. We went to this restaurant called Fishes and More, and the guy comes out. He got one little piece of bread like this. He puts a little tiny piece of bread. And we're like, okay. So, and then he comes back. He's like, oh, is there anything else I can get you? I'm like, oh, can we have more bread? He was like, well, I have to charge you. Yeah. And I was like, it's okay. I just like, because of my poverty mindset, I'm like, no, I don't want to charge for the bread. Mike's like, just get the bread. I'm like, I'm not paying for a quarter of bread.
Yeah.
But it's usually
so
funny,
free
like,
too. Yeah. Where it's like, yeah.
Oh, you're not going to pay for the bread? Like, oh, I was just shamed. I was shamed at Fishes and More. Fishes and More what? Not bread. Okay.
Well, that was like, I remember the first time we went to Aruba, we were taken to a restaurant and it took forever. And they were like, sorry, the cook stayed out late last night watching the soccer game. And you're like, I love it.
Aruba,
I love this fantasy.
Aruba is so that's the most laid back place I've ever been in my life, where they're like, hey, it's Aruba. You're like, my phone isn't working in my room. Like the power's off.
You're like, why is it an hour to get the check? And they're like, hey, we're on island time.
Hey, we don't care. Yeah, it's a great place. Oh, I'm going there in a few weeks, so that'll be one of my next few episodes, I guess.
Oh.
I'll do a thing.
I think we're going there in March. I have to tell you, every time I go there, I'm always wondering, will I find Natalie Holloway's body?
Well, you know,
or solve the case. Well, that's a fantasy I live in.
It did get solved.
Was it Vandersloot?
Yeah.
Okay, but they never found her body.
They never found her body. However, this is a turn, and we actually need to start wrapping up because we just hit 40 minutes.
Okay,
pretty good. But so Sarah and I perform at Aruba Ray's.
One of the
club.
most exclusive clubs out there.
It is actually the #1 nightlife event in Aruba.
I had no idea.
They get comics from all over, and I actually love Ray, love the club. It's the best. I have a great time there every time. So it's in the Holiday Inn ballroom, and the Holiday Inn is where Natalie Holloway stayed.
Wow.
Yeah. And I didn't find
dibs.
Yeah. So actually, if you go, you can go. If you have the hotel key, I think you have to like swipe it to go up. But you can go by her room, and it's like a memorial.
Oh,
they've like created like a little memorial outside of it. And it's like, wow, I didn't realize I was on an episode of Dateline.
Well, that'll be exciting to go check out when I'm there next.
Yeah, I'll leave a little message there for you.
For Lady
Yeah.
Journey.
Lady Journey.